era of AI.
AI campaigns.
AI overviews and AI mode.
AI-powered creative.
AI.
With all of the new automations and AI capabilities of Google Ads and digital marketing that are available to businesses right now, the important question is, are agencies still relevant for businesses in 2025, or are they just a waste of money? And that's why I invited Steve from Digital Position so that we could discuss the role of agencies and where they can and where they can't add value to businesses for Google Ads in 2025. Like always, I hope you enjoy this interview. All right, welcome back, everyone. I've got Steve from Digital Position. So firstly, Steve, thank you again for being here. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but really want to get down into where agencies can really add value to businesses with their Google Ads. And we'll probably also talk about where they don't at the moment. But let's start off with, you said a little while ago that bottom of the funnel campaigns, obviously search and brand and other ones, are now mostly set and forget. Do you just want to explain a little bit about what you mean there and how that kind of operates in real world?
Yeah, definitely. Bottom of the funnel campaigns, Google Ads and Bing Ads in particular, they've just become a commodity in a way, right? I say set it and forget it. Part of that is true. Part of that is probably exaggerated. But when it comes to optimizing a campaign, it's just not what it used to be, right? You used to have to manage spreadsheets worth of bids and keywords, and it took forever just to actually optimize and clean up the search queries. Now you have just bidding strategies, and you actually only have really two at the moment, is target ROAS and maximize conversions. Of course, you could tweak those settings a little bit here and there, but Google has been simplifying more and more. So basically it's like how much do you want to pay per lead or per conversion, or how much of a return can you get for the money spent? But Google already has this black box of data, right? And it has so much more levers than any human can ever pull or control. And it's just making this decisions for you in real time. So that's what I mean by set it and forget it.
And obviously, in my view, it's very much only going to increase, obviously, with, very soon ads are going to be showing in AI overviews and AI mode. So it's only going to, get more and more down that path. So knowing that current environment that we're in now and what's to come in the future, for you, where do you think that agencies or, Google Ads freelancers can add real value beyond just setting up campaigns and monitoring the clicks?
Yeah, definitely. More and more our discussions are moving to up the funnel, basically. Right? You're going to think about what's happening before somebody gets to Google and starts searching you, and what happens after, right? So more of the website experience, retention, reputation management, and that kind of stuff. Really, where you add value when it comes to Google is pretty much everything else, right? Every other channel. And more discussions that we're having with our clients kind of just turn into creative strategy discussions. Are you really talking about the content that you need to be creating? What content would be good for what platform, and what types of medium you're going to make that content in? Whether it's everything. It can be written content, which is your traditional blog. It can live on the website on a PDP or just your homepage. Maybe it's infographics, statics, carousels, video. So basically you're just trying to figure out what kind of information you want to share, and then what's the simplest or easiest way that somebody's going to take it in and engage with it.
Yeah, and that's where we like to talk to businesses as well, is I think what's growing out with businesses as well is really thinking about different levels of messaging, and what you're speaking to someone and the ads and the experience they're getting when they're doing a detailed search or keyword search is really different to someone who interacts with a YouTube short for the first time or interacts with a post. You really need to start breaking that down. So do you have any, I guess, frameworks, or how do you run a discussion with a client around that who comes first to you for Google Ads? How are you starting to roll out the discussion that, yes, we look after the Google Ads, but we need to really start thinking about these other factors? This video is being sponsored by Define Digital Academy's newest program called DDA On Demand. And this program is specifically for business owners who are running their own Google Ads campaigns, and they want to have a hybrid option where they can partner with experienced Google Ads coaches who intimately know their business and who are also there to strategically help their business grow. On Demand bridges the gap between you as a business owner struggling to manage your own Google Ads accounts, while also breaking you free from the constant cycle of rising management fees every time you get to new levels of success with
with Google Ads. This unique program includes an initial strategy and audit, just like the audit we're taking you through today. And then you can also book in direct one-on-one, so no one else is in the meeting, coaching calls with either myself or also my experienced coaches. And I might add that Brent Neal, the other person on this video, is one of my first coaches who we've joined onto this program. If you've been watching any of my videos for any length of time, you know that my passion has been to help business owners to grow their own business with Google Ads, just like I've done with my own businesses. And that's why I'm super excited to launch On Demand. If you're interested in On Demand to see if this could be the best fit for you and your business, why don't you follow that link in the description below and we can take you through the application process, because I'd love to see you in On Demand really soon. But with all that said, let's jump back into the interview so we can take you through how to do an audit process for your own Google Ads campaigns.
So I think what you're really referring to is like the macro strategy, or like the conversion funnel, right, as a whole.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a great point, because that's another area where agencies can really add value, or really help out the client, because really a client, for the most part, they just don't really understand what that whole funnel looks like, or they just can't, because it's harder to justify what kind of return you're getting for your investment. And typically a business owner, if they can't understand that very clearly, then they're not going to be willing to spend it. And that's another reason why agencies can really add value again. But when it comes to that macro strategy and, the conversion funnel, you're really just trying to start looking at the facts, right? So this is like one thing that we're starting to do right now is, and I can get into this a little bit more too, but we're injecting ourselves into these communities, these micro communities that every business and in every industry has, right? It doesn't really matter what you do. If you sell cold plunges, there's going to be a community talking about health and wellness. If you sell purses, maybe there's Facebook groups that are talking about buying and selling high-end purses. You just have to look for those communities and groups, and then just start engaging with them, start immersing yourself in there. And then that will basically tell you what buyer personas you actually need to go after. Of course, there's, reviews and other things, but there's actually like a lot of data out there for people to mine to have a better understanding of their buyer persona and who they need to go after. Otherwise, of course, you can hypothesize and come up with maybe buyer persona that makes sense. And that's where all those discussions really need to start.
Yeah. So if you've got a client, if you've got a client that has a idea of that buyer persona, are you still going in and double checking that, that's what they're saying, but do you go through and double check what you would do to potentially broaden out that persona?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that people in the digital marketing world have to start doing is they have to zoom out with their strategy, and you kind of have to go back to like old school marketing. Like, what's your TAM, right? Total addressable market, and just think about like, okay, well, is that buyer persona a big enough one? Would that make sense economically for my business? Can I drive enough sales? Would that, lead to enough revenue? Or am I like niched down too far that I'm going to shoot myself in the foot with this marketing initiative, where it just doesn't make sense?
Yeah, no, and I think it's a really interesting theme that I've sort of noticed. I had Patrick from Venture Media, and he was basically saying same thing, is that, over time, he's moving back to the core principles of marketing, and that's what we're really taking people through. Rather than just going into the growth hacks of, individual keyword targeting, it's more about the full business and how it works and how it operates. All right, so this probably brings us to the next question, which is really about for you and, when you're looking at a client and within your agency, how do you balance what the algorithm does well versus where you need the human insight or human strategy to make the biggest difference for the business?
That's definitely really interesting. The algorithm is something that you can't really control, right? I feel like in a way it's like the weather, but you can't prepare for the weather, or you can't prepare for the day. That's kind of how we look at it. I would say that at least the good thing is that the algorithm is taking over a lot of the complex tasks and repetitive tasks, like the bidding and different things like that we used to do back in the day with paid advertising. But where like the human comes into play is helping clients understand their goals, for example, right? So I had a really good conversation the other day with some of the C-suite of a business, and we were just discussing, okay, well, what are your current goals right now? Obviously, you guys want to scale and you want to be efficient, or you want to improve your ROAS, but you just can't do that at the same time. It's like me trying to say that I want to, get stronger, but skinnier or something like that. Like that just doesn't really work at the same time. So helping, the agency or the platforms, or bringing the whole marketing team together and having like the human element of figuring out what the appropriate goals are for the business is really crucial. And then we're using the algorithm to help achieve the results that we're looking for across multiple different platforms.
I really like that analogy that you said, and I actually call it the one of the ways I've kind of coined it is the bodybuilder concept. Obviously, by the look of it, not a bodybuilder, but it is the pure concept of, you can't get bigger and cut at the same time. And it's really, I find that a really interesting discussion I'm having with a lot of clients as well, is really questioning their numbers. So they'll go, we want to increase ROAS by X amount or increase volume, and really probably educating them and taking them through a journey of knowing that it's just not a matter, you can't do both of those things at the same time. We may need to go through a season of, sort of 3 months of focusing on your volume, and then we work on your, increasing profitability and efficiency.
Yeah. I would also like add to that because you're just saying how human insight still makes the biggest difference. There's a couple other things. So another concept that's happening with AI is that, or you probably all know somebody, or you probably know somebody who is saying that they're using AI, but they're just giving it like a 1-sentence prompt, right? So really what's just happening is that's getting blown out of proportion when it comes to marketing and using these platforms. People may not be giving the algorithms or the platforms the right context or the right information or inputs. And that's what is another thing that human insight or the humans bring to those algorithms, or a good agency or a good marketer is bringing to like those algorithms and those platforms. So providing context, like maybe it's seasonality, or maybe it's launching a new product, or in the US, I mean, every single day it's a new tariff that gets slapped onto somebody, and then that's affecting some part of the operations for a business. And those are the types of things where humans really need to get involved. If it's just relying on the algorithm, then it's going to make mistakes, or it's only using data, and then therefore it's going to be reactive versus proactive. So just like all sorts of inputs. And then we've already talked about creative inputs, but whether or not it's Google or Meta or TikTok, whatever it might be. I mean, even Google has video and display and images. You have to be putting in the right creative. That's where you're spending most of your time. Test that headline and test that ad copy. See if you can decrease CPCs or increase your click-through rate. Before, we were just stuffing keywords into titles just to get like the lowest CPC. But now it might be worth testing things out and, I don't know, trying something more interesting or more engaging, right? Or like out of the box. Like, don't just put like website, like the number one like bar of soap, and then like brand name.
The whole number one thing, or where the best is, I think one of the worst headlines you can use, unless it is actually true, unless you can actually put facts in there and prove it. But I think that's one of the things where, especially with AI, you can tell, I think in some ways AI has made, especially in the Google Ads sense, ad copy really, really lazy, which is a real opportunity for creators and agencies that are prepared to put a little bit of extra work in. Like I learned this lesson way back in the first Google Ads campaign I ran. Being able to put your creative touch can actually be the game changer in the campaign. So we had a villa resort, private pool villa. Everyone had private pool villas. And I came up with this phrase of, rather than saying 1-bedroom private pool villa, in our ad copy, we actually had the saying of skinny dip in your own pool. And it's still like, even like 12 years later, it's still absolutely killing, because when you see it in the lineup of an ads, like everyone else is saying 1-bedroom pool villa, private pool villa, whereas we're sitting here saying, skinny dip in your own pool. And it's still, it's our number one killer ad. And it comes back to that concept of, as a business of, as you're saying, AI is great at bringing in and consolidating data. Where it lacks is that creative edge of humans connecting with humans. And I think in the whole gamut of Google's AI and all the learnings is that human connection to human connection still breaks through and can still get really, really good results for businesses.
Yeah. That would be really, really interesting. Do you think that's going to happen with Google Ads, that maybe people will get that hint and we'll start to see a little bit more creativity in those headlines?
I think so. I think it's going to come back to results. For me personally, and I think, especially with what's happening with, we know that Google's now released that ads are going to start appearing in AI overviews. I think, my strong prediction is that these, ads will start appearing across all different large language models. I think the new aim of the game, and one of the new ways that that businesses will win. I think the market needs to understand. So when I say Google, or when I say Google Ads, I don't just mean search. I think what's really going to be important is, as you were saying, that full funnel, is that successful brands will be engaging people in ads through video and display, especially things like YouTube. And then the search campaign will basically be the catching. So, they're interacting already, because we know for like smart bidding, if you've interacted with 3 or 4 of my YouTube ads and then they complete a search that's relative to my brand, is that because it's all within the same Google Ads account structure, that smart bidding on the search campaign is going to prompt up my ads because I've already got 2 or 3 engagements over the past 30, 60 days. I think that's where it's going to become really important.
Yeah. Maybe it's like more of like drip style campaigns and then messaging. I mean, it's all based on data.
I also think the other thing is that marketers and agencies have to get better at communicating the full results of a Google Ads account to the business. And what I mean by that is businesses don't like seeing any campaign line that is not profitable. I think more and more you're going to see, if you've got like 4 or 5 different campaign types, 2 of them may report not being profitable inside of Google Ads, but if you were to remove them, the whole account would see higher CPCs and lower conversion rates.
Yeah, it's definitely the way that we look at things more these days, with attribution just being so muddy, and it's only going to get worse, right?
Yeah.
And so we really have to, again, like zoom out even more financially and really focus on MER. Like we look at contribution margin, we look at MER, and then we're just trying to do little tests, incremental tests, to understand how each channel has actually an effect on the overall performance of the business. But yeah, just because of that attribution being so crazy, we can't rely on platform metrics to justify what we're doing anymore.
Are there any frameworks or strategies, or are there any tools you use to help calculate that MER and help calculate the role that Google Ads plays in any business's marketing strategy?
Yeah, we've built our own tool. We've used other tools that other people have made. Obviously, like some of the more popular tools. We like Looker Studio. Every single time we run into a situation where we just need like a little tweak to the data, because that's what's important to the business. So like maybe an example is, we realize that inventory is super important, but it's not, maybe it's not so important for every other client. So we're not building out inventory into like some sort of like tab or some sort of report for everybody. But anyways, what my point is that we have to always create some sort of custom solution. So then we end up using Google Sheets. We'll use Google Sheets with Supermetrics, and then we just connect via API through the Supermetrics account to pull in all the data that we can. And then we're really focusing on the main KPIs that we're focusing on is MER, right? So your total marketing expense ratio, NCAC, right? So your new customer acquisition versus existing customers, which a lot of agencies aren't really talking about these days, but I think that's a huge focus for us. Then LTV, and lastly, contribution margin. So these are all things that are really, really important to the CEO or the CFO. Yeah. We're just finding more and more, as if we want to be successful as an agency, we need to be aligned with the CEO and the CFO, because I think that the relationship between, like, let's just even say the CFO and the marketing team has always been so estranged, right? Like there's CFOs trying to cut budget, and the first thing to go is going to be your advertising spend, and the marketing team's like, well, this is actually going to kill your business, but I don't really understand how I can share or show you that you cutting the advertising spend budget in half is going to hurt the business. So we try to connect the dots for people.
Yeah. And is that, I guess probably the biggest thing is you're really, really finding that successful agencies are probably better at just communicating their real value to businesses. Yeah. And also secondly, actually asking the right questions to actually find the results that they want, and the results that, the data points that they want for their business.
Definitely. Yeah. We're always asking our growth strategists to be inquisitive, right? You have to really want to know more, and you have to be constantly asking more about the actual business and like what's going on.
Yeah. I think if you and your team are not getting to the point where the business is getting annoyed with so many questions that you're asking, you're probably not asking enough questions. So you should always be really diving down. And I know for us, like all the time when we're onboarding a business, is there any data point they give us for cost per conversion or whatever, break even metrics, we're asking 3 or 4 follow-up questions on how they got that data, how long's that data been, how does that data change when we hit to a certain level of volume? And a lot of the time, even if the business doesn't have the answer, it at least plants that seed in their mind that we can start opening up a real discussion with them.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to ask too, what reporting tool are you guys using? Because maybe we should. Right.
Yeah, so we will generally, because we're more on the education side and coaching, so we'll generally more use what the team has in-house. As I said, we go across the commons, like a lot of our clients will use Triple Whale and those type of ones, but we will generally as well is that we'll create our own Google Sheet with the metrics that they're looking at that's important for the business.
All right. Very similar.
Like you, we just come to the point where you just get to that it's just not, it doesn't give everything. And that's why we generally end up still running in Google Sheets.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always like a little like nuance to that account.
Yeah.
In which you just need to pull your own data. It's very strange. Well, it's interesting that so many other agencies do the same thing, because you would think there's so many solutions out there. You'd think that they'd be able to come up with something that's a little bit more universal, but yeah.
I think for me, the reason for why is it just comes down to is that every business is different. They've all got different metrics. Even the owner or the leadership team of the business have different things which are important to them. And that's why I think it does fall down. And that's why a lot of time, we've had some businesses where the actual profit in their business is the long-term management schedule. So they'd have like an expensive upfront product, but the actual business is built off the long-term management. So our biggest thing was communicating to the client, hey, look, let's bring down the ROAS goals and the bidding goals for that upfront product, because that's not where the profit of the business is. The profit of the business is once you sell that unit, you got 24 months of maintenance. So let's move as many of these products. Even if they're break even, it's much more beneficial to the business.
Yeah, for sure.
And we just found that we couldn't create that attribution setting inside of a set one. So that's why we pulled it all out to Google Sheets.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, last question. We'll finish on this. Given how much Google Ads has evolved, as we've been speaking about, are there one or two things that a business owner should focus on if they're currently not using an agency? So if they don't have the money to use an agency, what would your recommendation be for business owners running their own Google Ads campaigns? These are the one or two things they should focus on.
If you're just running on Google Ads and search, I would say focus on these two things. It would be conversion tracking. You have to make sure that your conversion tracking is on point, right? And that, to be honest, you could find somebody on Fiverr, on Upwork. If you have a more complicated situation, yes, you definitely want to use an agency. You want to use a specialist, somebody like that. But for the most part, it's pretty simple to install conversion tracking, but I would probably outsource that just so that you're not making a mistake, because it's just so important. Why spend $1 on any platform if you can't track it? Like you have to. So that would be number one. And the second thing would be have like a very compelling offer and message and landing page. Maybe that's two things, but you have to have some sort of offer and a landing page, right? Like, how many times have you come across websites that just look so bad and out of date, and it almost looks spammy, right? You're like, this is a scam. Like, this can't be real that this landing page exists, that it looks so bad. Or maybe you land on something, and if it's just not clear right away, you're bouncing. You're clicking out of that immediately. So those are things that you, as like a business owner, you can control that, right? You can easily make sure that conversion tracking set up. You could probably figure out Google Ads to a certain extent. You probably just won't be able to scale the way an agency would be able to scale. And then you got to make that compelling offer and make it very, very clear.
Yeah. And I guess also too, it's being willing to accept that if you've got really relevant traffic going, so you can see the relevant traffic going, and if you've had, 1,000 people go to the website and there hasn't been any leads or any conversions, it's a telltale sign that the issue is not Google Ads, it's probably your website and your offer, which you need to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. But at that point, if you're just a business owner and you're small, every dollar matters, and you're probably going to give up on Google, and they're probably going to think that it's Google Ads' fault. You're not going to think that it's your own fault. With like your landing page or offer.
And it's a hard thing, I know, and because it's a really, really personal thing, but it's, I think for success with Google Ads, you've got to be big enough to go that if I'm sending people, especially if it's your own business, if I'm sending people to this website, and it's relevant, if it's not working, the problem's actually not me, not the platform.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge. And what we'll also do for anyone watching this video, I've got in the description, we've got information on how you can get in contact with Steve and his agency. Thanks, mate. See ya.
All right. Thank you.